How to become an extraterrestrial ambassador to Earth. What the average 3D human needs to know to understand and interact with extraterrestrials and higher dimensional light beings. And how to bring about open ET contact and the 5D ascension. Stay tuned for the whole video because I'm going to go through some really important points here. We're going to talk about how to educate 3D humans about extraterrestrials and interdimensional light beings. And I've got a whole list of things that the average person has absolutely no idea about. And so this will be helpful if you want to help people understand, or if you are new to this channel and you simply want to understand. And how to create a personal connection and actually be an ambassador on Earth for other civilizations. This is the Thunder Wizard YouTube channel, the gathering place for all 5D starseeds and light workers. Thank you for showing up today. I am Mahadeva, the Thunder Wizard, who, yes, is getting over a cold. So please forgive any phlegmy interactions that I may. But rest assured, I'm just a digital representation of myself, and the virus isn't going to get you. Even though I'm better, but you know, like when you're at the end of a cold, you sound like you're dying, but you're actually feeling a lot better. Yeah, I'm pretty much at the end of this thing. Anyway, enough about my fluids. All right, so let's go ahead and get back to this. How to become an extraterrestrial ambassador to Earth. So this is actually a message that came about to me in a dream, and I definitely felt a confirmation from my friends saying, yes, here we need to turn this into some kind of a step-by-step protocol so that people not only can understand, because the biggest issue going on right now is the absolute, complete, total misunderstanding of everything. But in particular, what extraterrestrials are and what open contact means and all of that. But it even gets down to, in order to understand ETs outside of the nonsense that's being thrown at us by the Pentagon, by Congress, by mainstream media, by the fake whistleblowers, in order to get past all of that, there are some major third dimensional misunderstandings that we have to go beyond. Because that's what it is. It's not anybody's fault. The average person like me, 3 years ago, I had no clue. I had zero clue. I was a spiritual practitioner. I was a meditator. I was a shaman. I had out-of-body experiences. I channeled. I worked with masters and, deities and all that stuff. But even then, I had absolutely zero comprehension about the absolutely bizarre and amazing nature of this universe. And that is simply because I am a 3D human. And so we have to address this because the average person is not going to figure out on their own. And this is why there's so much complete misinformation and misunderstanding. It's because people are just simply using their third dimensional perceptions about something that is not a third dimensional Earth phenomenon. And what comes as a result of this is when you understand this, your understanding of everything, not just extraterrestrials or Earth, your understanding of your own nature and the actual nature of consciousness in the universe and your relationship to it is absolutely going to change, 100%. So, like I said, if you're new to this, then great, I'm going to educate you. If you want to help people, then I'm going to lay it out for you how to do it. Because if you just walk up to the average person and start talking about, I talk to ETs or, something like that, they're not going to know. They're going to imagine, the Greys from, Whitley Strieber's movies and novels. They're going to see, they're going to have a third dimensional reaction to that. So anyway, I'm doing interviews. An interview has actually come out today, and I will put the link below on another channel. So I'm doing interviews on other channels for this reason. This is where I want to end up going. I want to end up, if I have anything to say about it, I want to just go on to everybody's podcast and explain about what is happening and what all this is. So if you want to do that too, I'm giving you an outline how to do it, or just to share with your friends, or if you've never done it before, if you haven't interacted with extraterrestrials or light beings yet, then I'm going to teach you exactly how to create that, because that's what we need. My goal is to get people to have their own experiences. Okay? Because without that, it's kind of a waste of time. This is about people having their own. Once everybody understands, there'll be no need for people like me telling you about all this. You'll have your own experience. As you know, I never teach anything I haven't experienced and proven for myself. So I encourage you to do the same. All right. So let's get into it. So how to educate 3D humans about extraterrestrials and interdimensional light beings. So the first thing we need to do is to address and change their assumptions about the creation of 3D Earth. Now, it took light beings, I want to say, 2 years before I even started to grasp this. So understand, even though I had interacted with higher dimensional beings and I had my consciousness, stretched into all kinds of bizarre places, and I knew I was dealing with something not of our dimension, even though all of that had happened, I still didn't understand this part, the creation of planet Earth. So we have not been told the truth about this, and that is partly by design. So let's get into it. Did I write down here? So Earth is an isolated, temporary consciousness experiment for the gods. So the assumption that we need to change is people have a 3D assumption. So if you're talking to somebody, you want to point out to them, you don't want to just throw things at them, because then they're going to come back with and they're so-and-so says this or this says that, or how does this happen? Like when I when I tell people that extraterrestrials, it's impossible for them to do anything harmful to you, and then people will say, no, that doesn't make any sense, because there are good people and bad people, so there has to be good ETs and bad ETs. Well, that is a third dimensional assumption. That is true in the third dimension. So this needs to, that's one of the things that the assumptions that needs to be changed. So the way to do that, because otherwise you're just going to be butting heads with somebody who doesn't, like I would have said similar things, and until you have the experience, you don't know. So the first thing to do is to address the assumption. So you do that by destroying people's, destroying is a bad word, giving them a different assumption about what Earth is. Okay, so Earth is a closed third dimensional anomaly. And so that, you go, what does that mean? Well, here's what it means. It means, let's see did I write it down here? I don't think I did. So it means that the way that Earth was created, isn't that what people think? Because people think that the Earth was created, and they think the universe is the universe. They think it's everything. And so they think that, we sprouted up out of nowhere by ourselves, completely isolated from all other life in the multiverse, and then other civilizations sprout out of nothing. And this is, of course, what science thinks. And so if you go under that understanding, then extraterrestrials coming to Earth are going to be like human beings when they were discovering, quote, new continents and other civilizations. People are just projecting their third dimensional experience. So that's why people believe that, gray zeta reticulans have traveled however many hundreds or thousands of light years to Earth just so that they can, abduct you, take you on their craft, anally probe you and experiment on you and implant you and, create hybrids out of you. Because that's what a human would do. That's the kind of stuff humans do. So it's understandable that they do that. So you have to address that and say, I understand that. But when you understand what reality really is, then you understand that that's not possible. So we didn't just sprout up out of nowhere. These beings didn't just sprout up out of nowhere. So Earth was created by higher dimensional beings. And I've talked about it before. You don't have to go into depth about it. You can say Earth was an idea that was formed by a group of very high level, higher dimensional beings called the Guardians. Well, that's what they call themselves. And they were looking to create an advanced experiment, a school for expanded consciousness. And the understanding is that, in higher dimensions, it's easy to be a powerful, omnipotent, joyful God. You have to have difficult circumstances. Just like if you want to build big muscles, don't sit out in front of a gym and watch people work out. You actually have to go in there and you have to push some heavy weights and you have to put pressure on your body so that it will get stronger. Consciousness is the same way. In order to have increased consciousness, increased power to create, you have to put yourself in a very dense, challenging environment. So there was a group of light beings that got together and they started talking about how to create this very powerful consciousness experiment, this school. And they came up with Earth. And so this is why Earth is completely isolated. This is why human beings think they're the only beings in existence. It's not their fault. It's because, when we look out into our solar system and we see Mars and Jupiter and the moon and the sun and all that, we think we're looking at balls of gas and balls of rock because that's all we can see. But the truth is that we're not even beginning to see what is really there. And so we don't see other beings flying around. We don't see starships everywhere. We don't see all the beings that are interacting with all of the planets and everything. We don't see that because we are in a tiny little limited third dimensional bubble. And until we understand how that came about, we won't be able to even envision it. So, again, I learned this personally with my interactions with light beings who explained all this to me and showed it to me. So, Earth is a limited third dimensional experiment. It's closed off from the rest of everything. And so once you understand that, then you go, oh, okay, so that's why we don't understand anything else. Okay, so Earth is an isolated temporary consciousness experiment for the gods. This is important to know. So you have to address people's... What's important, I think, I'm learning how to do this as I go, is to address people's experience. It's not their fault. It's not their fault that people automatically assume that extraterrestrials are evil. It's not their fault that they automatically assume that false beings of light are trapping you into a reincarnation trap, because that's their experience. That's what it feels like. So you have to allow them to have that. I made the mistake of, bad-mouthing people for being, weak and frightened and all that, which is true, but it doesn't change the fact that that's their honest experience. That's what they project onto their reality. So you have to acknowledge that. And so you acknowledge that, we experienced this because that was what we chose to create. So it's important for them to understand that Earth didn't create itself, and that it's not just humans that were involved in the creation of Earth, but all of the extraterrestrial civilizations. other galaxies. I mean, this was a multiverse-wide experiment where beings of many different levels, physical, extraterrestrial beings that had been in civilizations that have been there for billions of years, talking about billions of years of evolution in these other civilizations all over the place. They all have come together, and this has been a group effort. So, the idea of the Anunnakis, again, it's a completely first off, it's a mistranslation of the Sumerian texts, completely, totally mistranslated. But even if you take the original translation, they're talking about the gods, and the gods created humans to be their servants. And again, that is coming from an Earth civilization that was an empire. And empires always look to enslave people. So their sacred writings are going to reflect the mindset of the rulers. I talked about it before, but it's amazing to me how people will simply believe what they're told based on certain minor conditions. One person wanted to get into a debate with me about, did the Anunnakis create humans? And his argument was that it comes from the oldest written texts on the planet. First off, I know that he didn't actually read the actual text. He was reading the mistranslation that everybody, who watches, the History Channel, what they learned, the complete mistranslation of it. But even if he had read the original translation of it, my response is, so you believe that this is true because it's the oldest written book? So because it's a book, that makes it true? The oldest book. Now, if it's a new book that just came out yesterday, well, that's got to be wrong, but this is the oldest. So it's like you just believe what you're told because it's an old book written by humans, written by emperors who want to enslave people. But that is how people experience reality. They believe that they are being tortured and manipulated and that they're slaves and that they don't have any power. And that is part of the design. But the difference is you designed it that way. You designed it that way. All of the other extraterrestrial civilizations came together and put their 2 cents in. The gods put their 2 cents in. And so that's one part. So the Earth was a collaboration by everybody, including all of the souls that have incarnated on Earth. And you chose to make it so difficult that you would have the experience that you were isolated, you didn't know what existed out there, and that you felt as though you were being enslaved, so that you would be pressured to the point where you would have to find the strength within your own soul. And when you found your own soul, your own authenticity, that would then awaken within you, at the very least, an anger where you'd say, because this is what happened with me. I got angry and I said, screw this. I am going to determine my own life. I'm not going to wait around for praying or something. I'm just going to decide it. And I refuse to do anything I don't want to do. I refuse to work for anybody that I don't want to work for. I refuse to be sick. I refuse to be poor. I refuse to be unhappy. I refuse to do it. Now, I had no external reason to believe that. This was completely internal. And this is what came about with the book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. If you want to read that, you can go to, look at the bottom there, michaelwilliamdenny.com, get The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. That book came out of that. And the time that I wrote that, I was broke. I had no idea where my next rent was going to come from. And I was miserable. But I wrote the book. I knew that if I wrote a book about how I wanted life to work for me, that it would be like a magical creation. And that's exactly what happened. And then fast forward to after I'm interacting with light beings. Light beings were telling me all these things about me and what I'm going to be doing in the next, the ascension world and all of that. And they said, "Do you want to know why we picked you?" I said, "Yeah." They said, "Because you figured it out." What I figured out was that nobody has the power to enslave me. No being, no God, no light being, no devil, no alien, no human has the power to enslave me. And I can choose what I want. And that the most spiritual thing in the multiverse is for me to decide what makes me happy and to do everything in my power to achieve that. That turns out to be how all the other civilizations work. And you say, well, how can you do that? You're being selfish. What if I have to, where do I draw the line between doing something for myself selfishly and then I have to do something for others? And the reality is that when you operate from your soul, you never do anything that harms anybody else, because that harms you. And that's how all of the light beings and the gods live. All right, so I got in the weeds as I am wont to do. So Earth is an isolated temporary consciousness experiment for the gods. All ETs are from the fifth dimension or above, and therefore incapable of harming you. This is an assumption. Now, the average person doesn't know that because all they know is the third dimension. And as I said before, if I say that extraterrestrials, it is impossible for them to harm you. It's impossible for them to want to harm you. It's impossible for them to not know if they are harming you or not. So a sociopath is not somebody who is trying to harm you. That's a psychopath. A sociopath is just somebody that doesn't have empathy, that doesn't realize they're just self-absorbed, and they don't realize you exist half the time unless you happen to be in their line of sight or you have something they want. Doesn't necessarily mean that they have anything negative against you. They just don't understand. They're not conscious of your existence or your feelings or your needs. And so people assume that ETs are going to be like that. But that's a third dimensional experience that only happens within the third dimension or below. Now you have to take my word for it until you do the practices to communicate with these beings, and then you'll find out for yourself. But I could go into all the actual scientific proof having to do with dimensions, but I've talked about that before. But this is the assumption that people need to adopt, which is that all ETs are from the fifth dimension or above, and therefore incapable of harming you. So I'm not going to get into the reasons why, but even assuming if there are other third dimensional civilizations like Earth out there, they haven't come to Earth. And the reason for that is multiple, but one of them is other light beings and the gods themselves have a protection around Earth. Earth is an isolated experiment within itself. So even if there were evil third dimensional alien, draconian reptilians out there, they would never make it to Earth. They would be stopped. But I'm here to tell you that that's not even the case. Nothing evil is even trying to come to Earth, regardless of what you've been told. But you won't be able to believe that until you accept within yourself that you are a god, as powerful as Shiva or Odin or God itself. Until you understand that that's who you are and you've chose to come to Earth and that you have complete power over everything that you experience. Until you understand that, it's just going to be a lot easier to blame something outside of you. And this is all that's happening. And again, it's not their fault. People are just operating from their limited third dimensional understanding. So it's impossible for ETs to cause you harm because they are from a higher dimension. Without getting into specifics, the frequency of anything above our current third dimensional frequency, any frequency above that makes it impossible to cause somebody harm or to even want to cause somebody harm. because once you go up into higher frequencies, you are no longer isolated. You now become part of the quantum entanglement, and you see and feel everything that everybody else sees and feels. So you would never do something that would be harmful to somebody because it would harm you. The third dimension is different. We created it that way so that we would do that and experience that. Again, to learn the truth behind it, which is, what is the most, I'm going to tell you the most profound teaching in all of Earth is the Golden Rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Don't do anything to somebody that you wouldn't want them to do to you. And the only reason you experience that is when you're isolated and somebody's harmful to you. You go, wow, that doesn't feel good. Then you think about doing that to somebody else, and you go, you know what, I don't want them to feel that. I'm not going to do that. That's the experience of everybody outside of the third dimension. So that's an assumption that people would have to accept. All alien abductions are done by Black Ops military, not ETs. So again, we're trying to talk to people about extraterrestrials, and they're gonna go with what they're being told, because you look everywhere and you're being told that extraterrestrials are harmful. They're a threat. They're a national security threat. They abduct. They experiment. They anally probe. They do all kinds of horrible things, and they use you to create hybrids and all of that. Well, all of that I just said, does that sound like a third dimensional experience or a higher dimensional experience? If what I said is true, that in higher dimensions it's impossible to harm somebody, then yeah. So the only thing that prevents people from accepting the reality that abductions, which do happen, are done by humans, is the lie that we have been told, which is that human beings do not have advanced technology. So in other words, an argument would be, yeah, I was abducted onto a craft, but they had technology we don't have. Well, that's a lie. And I'm going to put a link below. You can go and check out the archives to find out that that's completely untrue. That we'll talk about it a little bit, but the whistleblowers that are out, anyway, we'll talk about that in a second. So, all right, I'm going into the weeds again. So all alien abductions are done by Black Ops military, not extraterrestrials. That is an assumption. But if you accept that and you look at it without fear and you go, well, is it possible for humans to get that level of technology? Of course it is. If humans had that level of technology, would they use it on other humans for personal gain? Yes. Would they be psychopathic about it? Yes. That's what humans have been doing their whole history. So once you accept the very easy assumption that, well, if human beings had this technology and they knew they could fool people into thinking they were being abducted by aliens so that they had plausible deniability, well, then it's a lot easier to understand, as well as Project Bluebeam. If you accept those two things as being possible, then is it possible that humans are the ones that are 100% responsible for all of the horrible, frightening things that have been attributed to extraterrestrials? Very, very much so. So that's just, again, address that. When somebody talks about that, you go, how do you know that isn't done by humans? Do you know for a fact that humans can't do that? And then they'll say, human beings don't have the technology. And you go, really? So do you think that if secret military Black Ops had the technology, do you think they would tell you about it? Or are they more likely to hide it from you and then use it on you and blame it on something, or somebody else? Just to get them thinking clearly. Because once you've experienced anything beyond the third dimension, it is so obvious. It is so obvious. All right, most mainstream media and UAP whistleblowers are CIA disinformation agents. So right now, unfortunately, and then people are going to say, well, but there's this whistleblower. Like I've made some videos about it. There's a whistleblower now that's doing the circuit. And if you listen to him, he will tell you that he cannot talk about anything unless he has permission. From whom? So, if he's out there, talking about things and he has permission from CIA or from, the military to do it, what's the likelihood he's telling you the truth? Again, I got links below to the actual whistleblowers. There are over 750 actual whistleblowers that Congress has not listened to. There hasn't been any open hearings. And the testimony that has come out, very few people have even acknowledged it. The actual whistleblowers. I mean, there's one guy out there, Luis Elizondo, who's just he is absolutely a shill for, I don't know if it's the CIA or whoever it is, but some deep state operation. And he's saying that, he's putting his life at risk. Well, if he's putting his life at risk, how is it that he's able to go around mainstream media news outlets and to every podcast and he's not, waking up face down in a ditch somewhere? Do you really think that if people were willing to take out whistleblowers, who are talking about planes being unsafe, do you think those guys end up, strangely, accidentally tripping over their shotgun and blowing the back of their brains out? That's happening, but Luis Elizondo can share all these secrets for years and years and years and write books, and somehow he's not, face down in a ditch. Come on, use just some common sense there. So all of these guys, most of them are complete shills and they're lying to you. And the way you know is if at some point they say that extraterrestrials are harmful, or they give doubt about their origins or their intentions. If they say that extraterrestrials have abducted, David Grush did this too. At some point he said that he knew that somebody had been harmed by extraterrestrial craft and technology. This is how you know it's a lie. Now, whether or not they are sincere, meaning they believe what they're saying, which means they've been deceived. There's another guy, I don't know his name, but he's going around and he's talking about, these extraterrestrials that he's encountered that happen to be in military fatigues, human military fatigues, and happen to be on military testing grounds. They just happen to be walking around, and then he talks about, it makes it a very frightening experience. I mean, what is the obvious reality here? This is, he's being deceived, or he's being paid. One of the two. All right. So the main desire of extraterrestrials is to help humans achieve 5D reintegration. So let's talk about reintegration. This has taken me, I've been in this intense experience for 3.5 years or so. It hasn't been that long, but it's been a very intense experience for, anyway, I forgot what I was saying. What was I saying? Oh, reintegration. All right. So what has happened, I've shared about this, is that as I continue to interact with higher dimensional beings, I have been shown that I am not just a third dimensional human. They've revealed to me that I'm actually a very powerful deity that's involved in the creation of universes and planets and worlds, and that was very hard to accept because I'd never heard anybody talk like that ever. Nobody. And so I didn't have anybody to go to. I lost my mind, and the light beings had shown me that they were able to tell me something that was about to happen, and it turned out to be true. And so I started to realize that, I'm not making this up. And so what's happened is that in order to survive this and to stay sane, I actually have to accept. And what ends up happening is that I'm reintegrating to my true identity, which is not my third dimensional identity sitting here with a cold and, wondering who the hell just texted me. No, I am an infinite deity responsible for things far beyond what I could even begin to comprehend. And the truth is that that's true for everybody. Every single human being here is a much more powerful God. And you are choosing to focus all your perception into this closed third dimensional video game. And in order to do that, we've chosen to create the game in such a way that we forget our true self. There's a series on Apple TV. I highly recommend it. It's called Severance. And I'll try to not give too much away, but it's about people who work at this worldwide, multinational company. It's like the biggest company in the world. And they have to, in order to work at this, what happens is they have to get a chip put in their head. And what happens is once they go down in the elevator, they go something happens where they lose all of their memories and they just become another person. So they're two people. And there's the person that's underneath, underground in this company. And they don't have any memories. They have just enough awareness of what it means to be a human, but they don't have any memories of anything outside of there. And what makes it horrible is that when they go up the elevator, the chip turns off that part of them and reawakens their outer self. And so what ends up happening is the outer person gets in the elevator, and the next thing he knows, he's opening his eyes and work is over. So 8 hours has gone by. It's like, good for him. He doesn't even know that he worked for 8 hours. But the worker awakens, has to learn who he is, and spends all his time. He works for 8 hours a day, gets in the elevator, closes his eyes, and then when he opens his eyes, he's back at work, and it's 9 o'clock in the morning, and he never leaves. So, what ends up happening is that they start, they're looking to reintegrate because they want to remember. So they're trying to reintegrate their outer self and their inner self. This is almost identical to what it is to be human. We forget who we are. We come down the elevator, we're born here, we stay here, and we don't remember anything except what happens here on earth. But then what happens when we die? Boom, we go up and we reawaken to who we truly are. We are gods. So now what's happening, the shift to 5D is we get to stay human and we remember who we are. That's what's going on with all of these extraterrestrials that are coming to Earth. They're integrated. They know that they're a god inside of, whatever, body, like this guy here, my friend, he's got what looks like a giant insect body. But he's got a soul just like me, but he remembers who he is outside of that. He's not attached to that. We don't. We think without this body, we're nothing because we don't remember. So what is going to happen is we are going to reintegrate, but we have to expand. We can't do that on our own. At least I can't. So we need outside help. So the main desire of ETs is to help humans achieve 5D reintegration. And that is what happens when we interact with them. And the reason why we need to do CE5 and interdimensional meditation protocol is those protocols do a few things. One of them is that it creates a conscious portal to a higher dimension. And it also gives higher dimensional beings permission to come in and expand our awareness. Because if they were to just show up as you're going through your day, you would lose it. You would lose your mind because their experience is so bizarre and their higher dimensional energy is so expansive and so bizarre that it could kill you, could destroy you, drive you crazy. So they can't just show up and say, hey, you're a god. You'd lose it. Plus the energy, if you've ever felt their energy would blow you apart. You wouldn't be able to stay inside your own body. So you have to create a portal, and then you have to give them permission, and you also have to understand you're about to experience something that goes beyond your normal understanding. Then you can integrate the process, and then as you continue to interact over time more and more with these beings, you start to reintegrate more and more and more of who you truly are. So that has to happen in my experience with connecting to a higher dimensional being. Okay. So the main desire of ETs is to help humans achieve 5D reintegration. Reintegration will bring about the 5D shift on Earth. Why? Because when you realize that you're a god, you realize the nature of consciousness, you realize you are connected to everything, you realize that consciousness is love and that you are deeply loved, and you awaken from the pain of isolation and devaluation that we experience down here, and you see yourself in all beings, and all that happens. I mean, all this 3D stuff is just, the whole idea of going to a bank and getting money and, credit reports and, armies and, governments. And I mean, it'll just become silly. We'll realize it's a monopoly game. Really, it is. There's no difference. There's no difference between monopoly money and real money. None, except that we don't agree. But if you and I agreed that monopoly money meant something, which is what Bitcoin is, somebody just created something and said, this has value. And everyone went, okay. Same thing with gold. Gold doesn't do anything. You can't wipe your butt with it. You can make maybe, some cups and maybe some, but you can't use it for anything. It's soft. You can't. It's not. You can't use it for anything. It's just for decoration. But somebody said that has value, and you went, okay. And now people die. They literally died. They will kill other people, and they'll off themselves because they have a bad credit score or they don't have money. Money doesn't exist. So when we get to the point where we realize who we really are, we're going to go, what, money? What are you talking about? I have a direct connection with planet Earth. I can get anything I want. And when we become aware that the elites have the technology to power cities with something the size of a matchbox that uses nothing but, the surrounding ambient energy, and it doesn't use any fuel, it doesn't create any pollution, then we won't have to live in this economy of this petroleum-based economy, because the entire economy is based on, if you don't have petroleum, you can't drive your car. If you don't have electricity, you can't heat your house or cool your house. If you don't have natural gas, if you don't have all of these things that we provide for you, you have to pay for it. If you don't pay for it, you die. And how crazy is that? Our ancestors didn't do that. If they needed something, they went out into the forest and went out into the ocean and got it. You can't do that now. Try doing that. Try living in the wilderness. Some federal officer is going to come knock on your cabin door and say, you can't do this. You got to pay taxes. You've got to get approval. It's just crazy. It's just all made up nonsense. It's total insanity, and it's only designed to keep you enslaved. So that'll all fall apart the moment people start reintegrating. That whole stuff is just going to come crashing down. All right, external CE5 is the first step. Excuse me. That is because, like I said earlier, we live in this closed reality, and when we experience a reality above that, because of I won't get into it, because of the physics of the higher, more concentrated energy in higher dimensions, once we experience that, it can be very intense, it can be frightening and traumatizing if we don't choose it. So what people need is they need something that will symbolize and actually have an effect on opening up their perception. So the first thing to do for the average person is they got to do CE5 so they can see a light in the sky. Oh, look at that, it's a spaceship. probably not a spaceship. It's probably higher dimensional, something else going on. But that's okay. The higher dimensional beings now have your permission to penetrate the third dimension in a way that you can see it and experience it. You'll see orbs, and then later on, or even sometimes like with me, the first time you'll have a communication experience. Well, you'll communicate directly with extraterrestrials. It took me 3 times before I was actually able to have a telepathic interaction. The first 2 times my brain was too dense. I talked myself out of it. So you have to have those first experiences to open yourself up to go, this is real. This is, and then you get used to that, and then you can move to deeper connections. So external CE5 is the first step, but personal interdimensional interaction is preferable. I could have said that better, but it's more powerful, and that is where people go. Like even from the beginning, CE5 wasn't that appealing to me because I didn't care about seeing a spaceship any more than I care, watching, cars go by. If I want to talk to somebody, I would like for them to get out of their car and then I can go talk to them. The fact that they're driving a car doesn't really flip me out all that much, but people get all flipped out over seeing a spaceship. Okay, good for you. Now let's go one step further. Let's talk to those beings and let's experience their energy, because they are portals to much higher knowledge and awareness. And so that's why I say interdimensional meditation, which we do twice a week here, every Wednesday and Saturday for free on this channel. Go to the live section if you want to experience those. By the way, if you're still here, then let me do a little bit of business, because I need to keep this channel up and running. So we do these live guided interdimensional meditations every Wednesday and Saturday, 8:30 p.m. on this channel, as I just said. You can support this channel and learn very powerful energetic practices that actually help to create portals to higher dimensions. The most powerful spiritual practices. Some of them have been given directly to me by higher dimensional beings. I teach it to you here at thunderwizard.com. Go subscribe. You can also go to the shop, and you can get specific practices and teachings and videos. I work with people directly. If you want to be an apprentice, you can go there and sign up and work with me directly. I have live Zoom group classes. So when you start having experiences that you can't figure out, that you think you're losing your mind, subscribe at thunderwizard.com to the live Zoom group classes, and you can hear other people who are having the same experiences. I need this. This is why we do it. We just had one last week, and hearing other people talk, it was amazing, because they were having they're unique to them but similar experiences, which helps me, keep my sanity. So once you start doing this, you're going to need that. I don't care if you come to my group or create your own, but people are going to start to need to create groups and help each other reintegrate, because that's exactly what's happening. Okay. And then we have interdimensional meditation. If you go to meditations.thunderwizard.com, you can get all of these guided interdimensional meditations. And you see the first one there is prosperity. So if you want to try that one out for free, you can subscribe to the Thunder Wizard YouTube channel. And if you subscribe at the interdimensional level or above, you will get the prosperity meditation for free. If you want to have all of the video files instead of streaming them, then go to meditations.thunderwizard.com, follow the instructions, and I will give you the files themselves so you can have them on your computer. All right? And so those are the best ways to, and if you want to just hit the $ button below. Until we get out of this 3D thing, I have to pay bills just like you do. Listen, if every single person that watched my videos, if a video only gets 250 views, if every single one of those people dropped $1, I'd never have to do these business things. I appreciate all of the support any of you give. And if you're just doing the meditations, even that, you're saving the world, literally. All right, let's keep going. So, personal interdimensional interaction is preferable. If interested, if somebody is interested, you can teach them or encourage people to do CE5 and interdimensional meditation. You can. I've got this in a list here, so if you want to just make a list and go through it in your own words, you can. Maybe you want to go out and do some interviews, share it with people, because people are going to start talking about it. Hasn't happened yet, but pretty soon everybody's going to start talking about UFOs. Everybody. The Pentagon and Congress and mainstream media are trying to get you to do that. It hasn't happened yet. People are too wrapped up in their own lives, and they don't care yet. But at some point they will. At some point, everybody's going to be talking about UFOs. And if you say, I've talked to extraterrestrials, I've experienced them, you can sit down and walk them through this, or you can send them to this video. This is a video you can send to people. People say, I don't understand. And you can say, let me send you a video so you can learn more. It's really important that people have a correct understanding about what reality is, because we've been lied to and manipulated out of our true understanding. Because if you listen to it, what I'm saying is just common sense. If extraterrestrials exist, then what I'm saying is just simply common sense. If they don't exist, then I'm completely nuts. But there's going to come a time when everybody will have to face this reality. And so people like you that have had this experience and know what to talk about and can teach people how to do it, you're going to be the ones that people are going to look to. Everything's going to shift. I don't know when, but it's going to happen. All right, so start groups, lead people in interdimensional meditation so they can experience it firsthand. That's pretty much what I just said. All right, so address and change assumptions about the creation of 3D Earth. Earth is an isolated temporary consciousness experiment for the gods. All extraterrestrials were part of creating Earth. All ETs are from the fifth dimension or above and therefore incapable of harming you. All alien abductions, quote unquote, are done by Black Ops military, not extraterrestrials. Right now, most mainstream media and so-called whistleblowers are just CIA disinformation agents, whether sincere or if they're lying, they are still agents of disinformation. The main desire of extraterrestrials is to help humans achieve 5D reintegration. Reintegration will bring about the 5D shift on Earth. There's no way to stop that. External CE5 is the first step, but then personal interaction will then be preferable. If somebody's interested, teach or encourage them to do CE5 and interdimensional meditation. Start groups, lead people in interdimensional meditation so they can experience it firsthand. Send them to this channel. My hope is that at some point I start doing some live seminars and group stuff, and that'll be an amazing thing if and when I am able to start pulling that off. All right, so that's it, my friends. I said everything I was going to say. Thank you for being here while I went through this. By the way, on my Rumble channel, I have a video about a very specific supplement that has been very helpful for me. And I've had very little symptoms with whatever it was that I've had for the past few weeks, and I credit it to that. So go check that out. That said, my friends, I love you all very much. I hope to see you around on the channel. Please take very good care of yourselves, and I will see you all very soon.